But
Well, now I know. Now I don't know where to start anymore.
let's start with there. Like what, like this led you to the passion center.
Yeah. So the Passion Center was two things when it was birthed. It was a reconciliation of who I am and my gifts and what I'm here to be in the world. But the second thing, it was the assessment of how to bring and help society understand the ingredients of passion, why it's important. So in the corporate world, people talk about it so often in that we want passion employees and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But nobody really understands what that means or what they really want. What they're saying when they say we want more passionate employees is they're saying we want people to work more and we want people to like commit to their work and be dedicated and produce. That's what they're saying. But passion comes with a couple of other factors that we don't consider. There's pro-social behavior, there's people's general sense of thriving, there's meaning that's attached to the things that they do that drives our instinct for more and to produce more. But it's not about the production, it's about how is this relationship that I'm having with life and this relationship that I'm having with gift and this relationship that I'm having with other, how are they coming together to produce something that's bigger than who I am? And how are we coming together as community in order to do that? But, those are some value systems that I think society is negotiating right now. On the one hand, we want all of it. But on the other hand, we've gone so far from understanding how to achieve it that we don't know anymore how to create from that place. And then when we're creating from that place, how to sustain that place, because we've been indoctrinated with a lot of toxic value systems from the past that is, you know, companies and organizations and the cultures they're in. So it's been cool to move through this process because, like I was sharing with you earlier, being that spirituality was such a shadow part of my experience, I went full into passion from a scientific lens. And I wanted to understand, okay, well, so if somebody's going to respect what I have to say about passion, which is clearly not it can be seen in two lenses. One, okay, we accept passion from the my employees are going to work more, but from a everybody needs to love their job, that's a little fluffy. I don't know if we totally agree that that's a thing that needs to happen in the context of work, you know? So for me, it was like, well, I want to show the whole experience of passion. So in the beginning, the whole experience was actually only a part of the experience, which was how do we make passion math? How do we make passion science? So that led to a passion health study for 3 years. And that was all about understanding what makes passion passion. So we were able to do a lot of work with that. And at the end of 3 years, what we discovered was that passion wasn't a one to one, it was a one to many. And it involved these 15 characteristics that we bottled down into 4 buckets. And that produced the symptom of passion. So passion is a symptom. It's not the thing we go for. It's the thing we get from going after other things. So we were able to isolate what those other things were to a factor of 99.8% accuracy straight across the board with over 2,000 participants in the study. So we were really, really happy with those numbers. But then on that journey, I was having a journey. And I was confronted, as you are when you move out and mobilize the things that you're passionate about. Life, it's trickery, right? It's just like your experience going to the jungle. It's like, oh, let me bathe this in treats, but there's medicine for you. And my medicine was that my business got to a place where it just wasn't working. And I didn't know why it wasn't working. I was doing all the things right, all the things that I knew from corporate, all the things that I learned. And for whatever reason, it just stopped at a certain level and it wasn't going past that level. And it was the most grinding, frustrating thing, not to mention COVID happened and so many things needed to restructure. So it was like, I was standing right side up. I got tipped over a couple of times until finally I started to see, oh, shoot, of course it's not going to happen for me because I'm still shadowing myself. I'm still shadowing this other part of what passion is. And in order for this to operationalize, I need to integrate. And that integration process is still happening. I don't think it stops, but the integration is like, how do I show up true to both sides of this equation? The one side being the science, so that we understand what we're working with and there's measurements around it so that we can operationalize it and work it in a tangible way to get practical results. That's the one. But the other one is that passion has this beautiful spiritual quality to it as well. There's this essence ship to passion that is undescribable and should not be able to be defined. It should not be able to be boxed in and, like intellectualized, because there is a little bit of a mystery there. And there's a little bit of a life source that generates through the machine of passion when we are in complete alignment to ourselves, and ourselves being in connection to the all that is, right? So, yeah, and that's something that I just wasn't talking about or wasn't going there with myself or with the language or in public. So yeah, like that's still a little bit of like a weird journey to tackle in as well, because sometimes we think that these two things are polar things, but they're not actually polar things. They're one thing with different degrees of different things inside of the one thing. And we need, as a society, to really get more comfortable with talking about the different degrees instead of just focusing on the one element, because we miss so much of the juice when we stay to one side. So yeah, that's a little bit of an intro.
Wow. There's so many things I want to dive into here. uh, I'll give the highlights so I don't forget it. One is, you spoke about how it sounded like people start from a place of passion, but then these toxic things come in and basically kill that, and then it becomes this kind of obligation, compulsion, productivity focused drive. So I definitely want to dive more into that. The second thing you spoke about was also, this integration process. Like this is actually where we really focus, is that we have, only recently come into that fullness where we, like, even Ruta was saying earlier, it's like you reach this place where you call it complete, it's
Yes.
done. You don't
Yeah.
have to keep learning, keep healing, keep fixing. It's
That
not.
just goosebumps. Yeah, that place.
So what we realize is that, my journey was going on for 9 years, and I had developed this belief because of the teachings I got that it is a forever journey and you will never actually be fully healed, and you will never actually be in, like, healing is forever. It's just life. This is what life is. And then suddenly in September, there was this awakening where it was like, through, a lot of things that happened before that, even with Rutha's help, where it was like, you know what? Actually, I'm done. I have, I am done. I am in that place that I have always been seeking. And that's what it is about. It's like now I'm going to live from that place of completion. I'm not going to be the forever seeker. I have actually found I already have what I need. It's not this eternal neediness. It's like I am here. So I would love to dive into that too. And then the third thing was, like this is actually what we are shifting our whole focus on now. What we are calling magnetic business is
Mm,
is basically about building a business that is you. You are not doing business, you are business. And
yeah.
you are in alignment. So it's not like you, like, there's this ridiculous concept of work-life balance, as though work and life are two different things. And
which,
like it's this merger where you find that natural balance. You don't have to balance work and life. It is everything is balanced. So this is what I would love to dive into all of these things.
oh my gosh, juice, all the juice.
So where would you like to begin? How about like, like living from passion instead of like when you start from passion and then all of this corruption comes in, let's call it that.
Well, I like that because it actually interweaves with your last point as well. So I do think that when you start the life game or the life journey, and although I want to I want to also appreciate that everyone has a different experience in their starting place, but it is Joe Campbell's The Hero's Journey, where in the beginning you're like, you are whole, you are joy, you have these dreams and these ideas about how you're going to use your gifts to change the world or to make it better. And we get excited, some excitement from that, if we're clear on what that is. For many people, we start off not really clear about what that is, and that's a lot of pressure that we kind of take on as little kids, right? And it sometimes takes us away from just being the present kid that we deserve to be. So I want to recognize that there's also like this duality and all of the degrees in between of that duality of how our experiences begin. But let's look at it from the lens of the opportunity or the dream. So we start off believing that we can be contributors, really powerful contributors, and we can change the things that are wrong with the world. And we step into that fully believing that that is a possibility. And I think what we're hit with are well-intentioned people that want to protect us and our hopes and our dreams, and they want to, intellectualize where we're going to go, and they want to cap how much we can do, and they want to like make sure they're managing our expectations because maybe it didn't work for them, or maybe they have some experiences in life that killed their passion, and they don't want us to be hurt the way that they were hurt. So I think there's this managing of expectation of how much you can actually do in life, and people
Uh,
do that
I can
ways.
just like summarize that, it's like basically they want to protect us from the pain of disappointment or failure or all of these things. Like they want us to play it safe so that we have the happy feelings. They don't want us to go into those shadow feelings.
Yeah. However, shadow is such a very brilliant and important part of our journey, right? And so we can never, by protecting us from the shadow, we're actually robbing us from that experience too. In any regard, there's a million ways I guess we can trip with that. But let's stay on the journey of like, the toxic stuff starts coming in. And then we're met with on that journey, we're met with our failures, our mistakes, other people's interpretation of our mistakes, jealousy. I mean, the whole interrelational stuff that is there and that is forever present in our existence, trying to make our way to the top or to our fullest expression. And we take a lot of that on, and we take a lot of that personally, and then we start believing, and that's where things, I think, start to die for us. I was hit with an insight, and it's pretty basic, it's not anything profound, but the insight is really like, when we judge or we project judgment, we kill life. We don't allow things to grow because we're not in a position of curious creation. We're in a position of judgment shutdown. And we're attacked with all of these things as a person trying to kind of reach their highest. But passion happens when we're able to see the dream, believe the dream, know the opportunity, and see that we can contribute to it in some way. That's our expression. That's our creativity. That is what we're here for, in my experience. And when that's shut down and we start believing the lie, which is that is not what we're here for, we can't make a difference, we can't make change, we don't matter, we're just one of 7 billion, like all of these things, they start to distort the original plan for what we are, who we are, what we're here to do. And when we start to believe the lie, not the truth, then that's when things start to break down. And that's when we start to create formulas and structures of how to play safe. But even safety is a lie because nothing in life, right, like is quote unquote safe. Safe is a robber of life. It's not a giver of life. So when we
I
do,
I only disagree with you on one thing, that this was a very profound insight. I don't think it was that basic. And like I kind of lost my train of thought, but it's yeah, like to what you said right at the end, that it's like you in avoiding pain, you feel even more pain, in my opinion. You feel pain at the level of the soul, and that's like I'm not getting to be me and live my full self. So it's like that pain is actually much deeper, and it keeps bubbling up and accumulating until one day you have that breakdown, you have that sledgehammer blow which just stops your life, and you have no option but to embrace who you are.
and I
And
think that
that,
by
like, just one thing to add to that is that you don't have to actually wait for that sledgehammer blow. You can course correct at any time. Most people, unfortunately, end up waiting for that, but you don't have to.
no, and I say that to people all the time. I'm like, so one part of the many parts that I take on as my contribution is as coach or as guide, right? So, how can we facilitate a structure to support people through their transformations to passion? So, I focus on it in the work category as contribution. But there's other levels of searching that people go through when they're trying to move in that direction as well that we facilitate. And the thing is that you don't actually need facilitation. Like people have everything designed already inside of them to go down this journey. And life has created limits for us. We can't actually move away from ourselves and go too far off path because by design, pain was created. So pain becomes our limits. And when we reach what I call the edges of ourselves, it's like a slingshot. Life will catapult you back into alignment. You literally have no choice. I mean, you do until you hit your limit, and you don't. So it's like this. It's this give and this play that is available in the context of our existence, and that moves us into like, well, what is free will and all of that stuff, which gets.
We don't need to dive into that. I really liked what you said, that, is that slingshot, there is no escape. And other thing I want to add to that is that the course correction can be very quick when you know what to do. And this is where most people end up struggling maybe for too long, is that they keep trying to make the wrong thing work and thinking
Yes.
that.
Yes.
So like the moment you realize that actually what I need to do is come back to myself and honor who I am, then it's so fast the shift that you just are in alignment, and life is in favor of you now. The
Yes.
whole narrative that life is against you is happening only when you are against life, and when you are against yourself. So the moment that alignment happens, it's like the universe is wanting everything you want. You are in alignment.
the bottom line is that it's all about alignment. And whether it's you who are taking responsibility to get into that alignment, or life is going to push you towards your alignment, it doesn't matter. But at the end, it's always about alignment.
It absolutely, yes. That is the ultimate, it's like the ultimate law in a way, right? Like, and it is a law because the further out of alignment you are, the further in your suffering you become. And the closest to alignment you are, the closer to liberation you are. You're freed, like you guys are right now, right? Complete. And but that only happens when on your path back to this function place of existence that was where we were all kind of, in my opinion, meant to be. You said something, Tio, they keep trying to make the wrong things work. There was a saying that I came across a few years ago that was saying exactly that. Like, sickness is sickness only because you keep doing the thing that's creating and perpetuating that sickness. So the same thing with suffering. Suffering is a data point. It is telling you that there is something, back to your point, Ruta, out of alignment that's in operation. And it is our sovereign job to figure out what that is, to go hunting for it. And the thing that has been, again, like, once you start seeing, it's like you can't unsee things. So you start to see the corrections and the errors that we compile in society, you know. So when you take a look at like the pharmaceutical industry and how much that has not supported our ability to find our edges and to confront the things that we actually have to confront. Our bodies are so intelligent and they're constantly communicating with us. And so when we are numbing that, we don't get back into that accordance with our bodies, so that alignment doesn't become possible. Our bodies, in my opinion, are like the most sophisticated spiritual technology there is. So it is our job to learn that technology and to figure out what it is trying to say and how it's trying to speak to us, so that we can do the thing that's necessary to go back into function. But I think I'm veering off path and I do this a lot. So you're going to have to.
I'll just add one point to what you had said earlier, like talking about being complete. It's that what we are really doing, like we are also coaches and we are focusing on business, but more from this inner alignment, like, it's about you as the personal becoming the business. And the main thing is that we are not saying that you're going to be in this perfection heaven where everything is like, there are no problems. What we are really doing with people is that we are bringing them into such total alignment that their inner guidance system is permanently active and they don't need us anymore. It's like, so we are taking them into completeness that they can navigate life themselves. And like you said, people don't need all of this external guidance. They just need to be taught how to listen to themselves.
Yes.
And the role we find ourselves in.
And not just that, not only that they don't need any external guidance, but also they don't need anything in general. They don't need validation or recognition or attention from external world in order to live an aligned, amazing life that they're really proud of and they feel joy and bliss in. So it's something that so many people are running a business in order to just fill the void, or in order to make money, or in order to copy someone who is very successful. And what we are trying to do and we're doing is we want people to understand that it's you who is the creator, and you don't need to do anything in order to prove anything to anyone, not even to the universe, not even to the world, not even to yourself. Essentially, what you need is to feel like you are exactly where you're supposed to be, in that completion, in that completeness. And from that place, that's where the creation comes through. That's where all of the passion comes through. Everything that you are doing, Kira, is exactly what you're doing because it comes from the right place, not because you're feeding something within yourself that's kind of like a black hole, but you are so fulfilled already that you have so much more to offer to the world, and therefore you're bringing these creations to the universe.
What I will just add one line to that, it's like uh the 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 state that we are programmed into is that we have to arrive somewhere. And what we are helping people create is where you will live from, and you already have it all, and then you just keep creating more from there. So if you create from neediness, you create more neediness. If you create from fulfillment, joy, bliss, passion, you create more of that. It's like it's that fundamental principle that where you create from is what you create.
And that is a principle that's applied through everything. And by the way, I love what you guys are doing. It is in so many ways aligned with the things that we're working on with the Passion Center too. So I want to have like a off conversation with you guys as well after this. But yes, it is exactly what that is. And that's the, like, passion is just that umbrella term. It is that place that innately, separate from intellectualization, it's that place that we all know intrinsically that we want. We want to have more, we want to get more, and we may not know why. That may not make sense to us, but universally it is a feeling that we all know is like the holy grail of experiences or feelings. And like in a lot of the stuff that we do at the Passion Center, the first part of it is very much around getting right with ourselves. That's the first right. And so before we even look at business pivots, transitions, entrepreneurship, building a business, it's about how are we right with ourselves? Because become right with ourselves, then we can create from that place of rightness. And when we create from that place of rightness, it becomes exactly like what you guys just said. That is the creative power that becomes infused in the doing, so that my being isn't subtracted by the doing. And all too often, what I find is that we learn through that programming, through the social noise, that we are less than our doing. And the only way we can find worth for ourselves is through the do. And that's where we're rewarded, and that's where we're praised. And so, but that's not the complete story. And if work is an anchor for that only, that's where we start to separate and create even more separation with ourselves. There's many people, we have this phrase, and it's like, you are worth everything just by breathing. Like, that's it. You are worth everything just by breathing. The doing, that's an add-on. But until you're able to actually get that, which so few of us do, then the doing is just this temporary filler that you need to keep doing in order to feel something, which is our worth.
And I think, that carries on even beyond business, like I was saying earlier, that it carries on into the healing process. Oh, I am still not healed, and I have to heal this, and I have to heal that, and I'm still, basically the underlying thing is I am still not enough just as I am. And once that shift happens, right, like, you know what, there is no such thing as perfection. I am perfect as I am, and whatever changes I go through, I will remain perfect. And I don't need to keep healing. I don't need to keep learning. I don't need to keep doing. I am there. It's done. And then, it's not like healing stops. If something needs to be healed, it will come up as a natural process. But again, it's where you are coming to it from. You're coming to healing from being perfect in your essence. You're not coming to it from, I am not enough, I need to fix this so that I am better and I'm more accepted, I'm more validated. No, it's done.
Yes.
What I love also what you shared about rebalancing, that it's not only about looking into a specific box or a shelf of your life and like, okay, now I'm going to fix this, and now I'm going to fix this, and now I'm going to fix this. It's like it's not about fixing different departments of your life, like fixing the business or career, like you said. Okay, now I will focus on my passion and I will find my what my path is in my career. No,
Right.
it's like look at your entire life. Look at how you spend your time, who you surround yourself with, how you treat your body, what kind of foods you eat. Do you exercise? Do you treat well within your like in your mentally? Do you treat yourself well? And that is something that's so overlooked so often because people are just looking into those departments instead of looking at the whole picture and the whole harmony of how things are interacting with each other. Just like if you will be focusing on a business, for example, and then you will realize that in fact your romantic relationship is not going super well, then maybe there is some connection there. Maybe we should talk with a husband or a wife and discover how is that affecting the way you show up in your work, in your business. If you are feeling empowered, if you are feeling inspired, if you are feeling whole and fulfilled and excited about whatever it is that you're bringing into this world. So it's everything connected, and I really love that you brought this up.
And I think, like, to add to that, it's like uh, one of the things that, again, is this toxic influence that is to do all of this through obligation and compulsion. So I have to exercise, I have to eat well, I have to this, I have to that. It's not coming from a place where you love yourself so much that you can't do anything that's out of alignment. You don't
Ah,
have to push yourself, you don't have to have discipline. Like, this is my most hated word since childhood was this. I could never have discipline. And in my healing journey, I kept shaming myself because I don't have self-discipline. And
mm,
thankfully, one day I woke up from that illusion and I was like, you know what? I just love myself and I don't care. I don't care about having discipline. So there was this whole period where I was just living
Who
my,
defined discipline is in the first place? Who said what it is?
yeah, I mean, there are all these stories around it, right? And like, then,
really?
I just had these extensive periods of giving myself permission to just let myself go. If I want to binge Netflix for months on end, I will do that. If I want to make junk food my primary diet, I will do that. When I do that, I reach this place in myself where I'm like, you know what? I am done with it. I don't feel good. I want to do something different. So
Oh,
that, like I said, that natural correction mechanism just kicks in. You can't ignore it. And
yeah.
I love living life through that instead of like, oh, you have to meditate 1 hour a day, and then you have to exercise 1 hour a day, and then you have to do this, and you have to do that. It's like all of this is such a weight that you keep carrying that you just don't feel free and you don't even enjoy doing all of that at some level.
And I really don't know that that is beneficial to the individual, but it certainly is beneficial to the collective from an organized social hierarchical place, isn't it? Because if we can infuse discipline into society, then as a leader or as leaders in society, we don't have to worry about anyone's sporadic movements and things get done. So I can see how it's of value to a social system that wants to keep you contained and working for the benefit of the whole. But there does need to be this balance. And there is this thing called your sovereign space, your free will, your freedom to do as you are meant to or designed to do. And I'm very with you, Tio. Like, from since I was young, I was a rebel right out of the womb. I was not gonna fit into anybody's boxes, and I got in so much trouble when I was younger for that, for just like being me. So think about what that does to the psychology too, right? When you're constantly getting in trouble for being yourself. And like, right? So um there is this social pull, and it takes a lot of self-empowerment, will, and freedom in nature to break from those chains. And that is the pain. That is the natural correction system. So I love that you brought up like so many different beautiful points. Like even when you were talking about more of the linearity of our thinking versus the systems thinking, which is what you were bringing in, Ruda, because we look at life and we're taught to look at life in a very linear way, you know, like you go from grade 1 to grade 2, and you have to do that by passing a certain selective sets of tests, and then you know you graduate from the school system into the job system, and the job system is like a series of promotions, level 1, level 2, and everything's so linear and neat. But that's not life. That's not creation. Creation does what it needs to do in order to create. That's what creates beauty, and order, because nature also self-organizes. There's no one tree telling the other trees what to do. Like they all kind of follow their own infrastructure and guidance, and there's limits there too, right? Like the canopies can sometimes, you know, kill off the ones that don't get light at the bottom and all of that kind of stuff. But it works in a total system. And I think what we've learned to do in society with even our medicine, engineering, math, like everything is based on these silos, right? Like if the heart has a problem, let's only look at the heart. Let's not consider that there are other things around that system that are influencing, right? So we don't have in my opinion, we don't have a systems way of thinking. And there's a lot of disciplines like biomimicry that showed so much promise with a systems way of thinking. And I, to this day, don't understand why that's not more popular in society than it is, right? Like it just makes so much sense. Why aren't we doing more of that? But
I think like my perspective, on what you said about there is a place for discipline in the collective structuring is that I feel like if that doesn't exist and people are encouraged to enter into that alignment, it's not required.
I
So
know.
basically, that's what we are creating, like the organization that we are creating. We're creating a retreat center or something along those lines, which we are calling the brain forest.
Yes.
And idea of that is that it's a space where it's totally free of obligation and compulsion. So you only live in passion and inspiration. And each person feels that intuitive knowing that this is what I am here to do and this is what I will do today. No one needs to be told. Like, and it's actually working very magically. Like we even uh got like our first employee, and he is not at all in our world. It's just someone who is native from the village. And
Mhm.
he came in and he just picked up on that energy. He is in that energy. Like he doesn't need to be told anything. He self-regulates. He does his work even more than what we ask for. Like, it's like you tell people to work 8 hours a day, they will only work 8 hours a day. When I was working at Amazon, no one told me how much to work. I would end up working 20 hours sometimes because that was my passion. So
Yeah.
it's like when you break all of this and you just allow people to be in that natural passion, there is so much more that can happen than we realize.
I just want to also circle back a little bit, like responding to what you said earlier as well, that you beautifully connected to what you said in the very beginning of our conversation, that there's one thing to look at passion and life and business and everything that we are in a very scientific way, in a very specific boxed way. And it's another thing to also look at it as something you can't describe. And that's, to me, such a beautiful way to also even wrap the entire conversation up, because at the end of the day, you can't put this into words, into a description, into a scientific statement or whatever that is, because that essence, like you said earlier in the conversation, the essence that comes through us is undescribable. And that's what we are meant to be. And that's through what we are meant to create and do. And that's exactly what that employee is doing. He's just being himself, and he's just self-motivated because he loves nature and he loves working with the field, with the ground, with whatever it is. So when you connect that yourself with alignment with who you truly are, then everything else unfolds naturally. And all of those boxes, all that science proves itself simply because you have focused on who you truly are.
And
I
also, you like, just to add to that, when you are so in that energy, you will attract those kinds of people to work with you. They don't need explanations. Like, they just get it. And it's not like they're job and earn money and just work from 9 to 5. They are coming because they love what you are doing and what they are doing. So yeah, it's just this organic flow.
I definitely have experienced that with the Passion Center as well. Like in the context of how can we create leveraging each other's passions without that level of restriction. But I do find, I mean, at least in my experience, as you start growing and as more people start coming in, we do self-correct in the capacity of self-correcting. And I can also see where the value of both starts to come in. So, like I'd mentioned, I feel sometimes that in the infinite creation of all there is, there comes and there is born all of these ways in which humans can live, be, express themselves, and do and create, right? And in that infinite creation of all, when we sometimes we can polarize ourselves into this one way of thinking, even if that one way is like the freedom of all ways. And in that, there is still a necessity to find balance. Like nature is always trying to get to this place of balance. It's always trying to incorporate the polarities and balance them, because there's this weird paradox that happens in my experience. If you focus too much on this, you actually get the polar. So how can we incorporate and be open to the value of all systems as they are, and take the wisdom from them versus the rejection of them? And that creates, I think, a harmonization between all things that come together to interact and to obtain the kinds of goals and visions that we all have as being a part of creation. And the other thing that kept coming up for me too, as you were speaking, like what a wonderful journey of trust too. And I think why we haven't gotten there, like in a Western society or many societies, is because we live predominantly in fear, fear of betrayal, fear that people can't do what they set out to do, fear that things won't get done. And so when we're in the state of fear, which usually happens when we're in the state of pressure, which usually happens when there's multiple systems at play interacting with each other, then it's easy to kind of fall into that creation of roles where we are projecting our fear onto somebody else's experience or existence, such that making them, fall into that game that we're all playing with each other, which isn't reality. It's just a series of projections and arrows and whatever, right? So however, I do feel as though when you come from a place of completeness, when you've done the journey, when you've gone through the journey, and you're connected to or reconnected to your powerful self, and you have a full sense of that self-agency and ownership, then you are more likely to trust because you trust yourself. And I think that might be the gateway or the key to building societies that ladder up to that development of trust. I do believe, though, that there is a certain amount of unlearning on that path that will need to happen for a person's level of readiness to be in a society that predominantly functions from freedom of your own choice.
Yeah, I think I love the point that you made about the balance, because yes, I realized unconsciously I was, only talking about that feminine aspect of like surrender and trust and allowing the natural flow. But also part of our teachings is, bringing that masculine in. I think the difference is, the way we understand the masculine energy is very toxic. It's what
Yeah.
is very compulsive nature and very authoritative, like this toxic authority. It's not authority that's the problem, but it's this toxic authority where, like going through my own journey of masculinity, I have come more and more and more into this calm authority, which it is like a self-organizing principle. So when you're holding that masculine energy, the container gets the information intuitively. Like everyone knows their place, everyone knows their role. So I feel like, it's that it's like, yes, sometimes it may need to be stated in certain ways, but it's not coming from this, you are wrong, there is something wrong with you, and we need to fix you and correct you. It's like coming with this balance of the feminine, which has the compassion. So it's like, for me, it's always about how to bring these two energies into everything. So it's compassionate power, and
Yeah.
it's this calm authority, and all of these frequencies are what we are embodying. And when that is the case, your organization has all of that energy, and then the systems evolve in that way because you are creating the systems in that way.
I agree, and it's very hermetic too, isn't it? The understanding of the both the feminine role and the masculine role, and being able to be self-integrated because we are both. And I do believe that authority and leadership, like that is the training. It's like how do you become balanced in both your feminine and your masculine, such that you can empower and infuse those balances to create the community, or set the stage for the community's ability to find safety in their own authority and in their own balancing as well. But I think that, what you're doing and what it sounds like you're doing is very empowering. And more and more, I feel the need for society to kind of return. And again, I think it's like a returning to original principles. Being in Egypt, I got to learn so much. I mean, beyond what I thought I was going to learn about just the ancient ways of rulership and how they embodied moving into they called it like the perfect man, which was the embodiment of the self-actualized human. And once you went through the journey of self-actualization within the kingdom, the pharaoh would exist, right? But the pharaoh started as a young boy being taught by the high priests. So they went on a self-actualizing journey until they embodied that self-actualized state of being, to which they refer to themselves as gods, but not gods in the sense of worship me, gods in the sense of I have self-actualized and I'm now here as a model so that I can create a kingdom and a civilization that lives with a state of togetherness because I have reached that place of self-healing. And I think we've lost that. Now anyone can become a leader. And I don't know that that's the best the best way to run things as we are seeing. But yes.
This is exactly like, my whole website, our website now is about becoming your own God and embodying that self-actualized state, being in that complete state. And it's not about this sense of power where you're controlling other people. It's a power that empowers everyone. So it's again, what you are doing as a leader is creating that container where the whole community can thrive, where your whole kingdom or queendom or whatever you want to call it can thrive. And that is the sense of responsibility that you're taking, is that everyone needs to thrive for me to also thrive. It's not I am the one who's powerful and everyone can, like, they're expendable in the way the corporate structures are created nowadays. So Yeah, I love that. And I feel like this is a great place to wrap it up. It just captures the whole thing really
Just
well.
one thing to add to it,
Yes.
just the last point is that I feel like being a god or being self-actualized has become some kind of a unachievable
Mm,
idea somewhere out there far away,
yeah.
far-fetched. It's impossible to achieve. I will not even try. It's only for the special ones.
Mm.
And not enough people realize that that state is much more achievable and much closer than they think they are.
I agree with that. I agree. And I think a lot of that has to do with the super celebritizations of today's gurus, right? Because anytime you celebrate or celebritize an individual, you automatically create a divide. And unfortunately, people aren't seeing enough people that are living into their own power in that way. And our own illusions about what does making it mean, our own illusions about what does self-actualized mean, a lot of illusion around what does getting to our greatness and our greatest influence mean. And I think, again, bringing it down like 10 octaves so that we can all touch it and feel it and create a more tangible appreciation of it, have experiences with it, helps us to build a relationship with it. And again, like, and I can only speak to the Western lens because that's where I was bred and where I grew up. But I do think that a lot of the Western functions come from a very unhealthy beginning, and that has weaved itself through to now. And in order for us to recalibrate and find that way back to our center place, right, which is why I named my company the Passion Center, for us to find our way back to that center place is for us to renegotiate with ourselves, with the things that we find are healthy, with, going back to the wisdom of the ancients, the wisdom of the Aboriginals, the wisdom of all of these people collectively throughout history that have found their way back to center, back to alignment. And the more we can introduce aspects of that into the systems that dominate society, like our organizations, our school systems, the places in which everybody touch, then we won't be able to spread the seeds of the wisdom, right? Like having them just in these little tiny pockets. I mean, maybe it's enough from like, if we have 1,000 years, to move, because it's you seed it and
Yeah.
it moves. But if you want to scale wisdom, then we have to find ways of inserting it into the places that everybody is a part of, in my view.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Lovely closing thought. Yeah. So I feel like this conversation will go on forever in a sense. So let's pick it up again at some point. It's been
Yeah.
lovely having you, and yes, excited to share this with everyone.
Thank you for being here.
No, thank you for inviting me. It's been a really enjoyable conversation and a very meaningful one. So I appreciate what you guys are doing in the world and how you're showing up and how you're pathing for others. Yeah.
Likewise, it's really very exciting to see what you're doing with Passion Center. So
Yeah.
curious to learn more moving forward.